Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to another episode of Looks and Crooks. Free my nigga, take it. No, I'm playing. Before I move on, I just wanted to let you guys know that where my house is situated, it's close to the road, so you might hear some cars passing. I'm so sorry, but listen to the aesthetic. Oh my god, listen to that. Listen to the song here in my heart, a melody I'll start. No, I'm going to be singing with this mic because what even is that? But can't complete. Anyway, guys, sorry. I got taken aback, carried away with myself. For today's story, we're going to be talking about somebody who actually did do crimes and then tried to act like he didn't do the crimes. You know, the liars, the dogs, the dirty rats in society? That's what we are here to talk about today. And for today's story, we are actually going to be going to the country of Ethiopia. Ethiopia? How y'all doing today? And I'm glad that we're going to be going there because I feel like there's just one thing I'd like to say before we go into this topic. I want y'all to know that Ethiopia was actually the only African country that was never colonized. Period. They fought those white men with arrows and with bow and arrow to gun, and they won. So I just wanted to put that out there. I wanted to put that energy out there. So as you're listening through this entire story, know that the blood in that country is not it's not for jags. The blood in that country is not for jags. Anyway, without further ado, let's get right into this video. Now, for today's story, we're going to be talking about a Mr. Kelbessa Negewo. Like I said, we're talking about the dirtiest of crooks today, and he's the crook that we're going to be focusing on today. Now, I just want to quickly introduce him before we get into the real cruxes of what this man actually decided to do. I'm going to be looking here because my mirror is here. So, Mr. Kelbessa was actually born in 1950 in Western Ethiopia. Family actually reared goats. So, what they did is they farmed goats, they would grow goats, etc., and they would sell them. Like, his family was a very well-to-do family like in Ethiopia, but judging by the standards of other countries and what a well-to-do family looks like, Ethiopia was struggling a bit. It was struggling a bit. There were baddies, but they were struggling a little bit. Mr. Kelbessa was growing up during the time of Haile Selassie, and he would later attribute his poverty to the reign of Haile Selassie, irrespective of the fact that a lot of people did love Haile Selassie. A lot of famine, etc., was going on in Ethiopia during his rule. Although Mr. Kelbessa wasn't actually born into a rich family, he was still able to get a good education, and it must have been really good education because the education really did allow him to have an opportunity to get the opportunity to be able to go to America on scholarship. However, Mr. Kelbessa said that he never actually managed to go to America on scholarship simply because, according to him, a member of Haile Selassie's government found out about this and decided Kelbessa will not go, and the member of government sent somebody else in Kelbessa's state. So he actually sent his own son instead of allowing Mr. Kelbessa to go. So Kelbessa stayed back in Ethiopia with no hope of ever leaving the country, and he just took over his family business, reared goats, and after some years, he finally decided to get married, settle down. He had 3 children with his wife, and that was just the life that he was living. However, Kelbessa never really forgot the anger that he felt towards Haile Selassie's government. He also really did blame Haile Selassie for the position of poverty him and his family were in, and he always said that had an opportunity arisen to teach Emperor Haile Selassie a lesson, he was gonna be the one to do it. He was gonna be the one to do it. He said, I'm gonna be the guy who finishes this I want to blow this entire bitch up. And luckily for him, or shall I say unluckily for everybody else, but luckily for him, an opportunity to avenge himself really did turn up. Now, in the late 1970s, famine actually struck Ethiopia, and this is when his opportunity arose. Now, you know one thing about people that are hungry. A hungry man is an angry man. And when famine struck Ethiopia, it didn't matter how good Emperor Haile Selassie was. It didn't matter how much the people loved him. They liked food more. Yeah, they really did. And the people quickly started to turn on Emperor Haile Selassie, and this led to a revolution. There was a lot of unrest, and last, a revolution took place, and in 1974, Emperor Haile Selassie was dethroned. And by this time, the Derg government took over, and the Derg were it was a militant coup, a military coup d'etat, if you get my drift, if you get my Francois. They took over Ethiopia, and things really, really changed when they took over Ethiopia, in accordance with how Mr. Kelbessa Kelbessa wanted them to change. He actually moved to the capital. I don't know about his family. He moved himself to the capital of Ethiopia, which is Addis Ababa, and where the stronghold of the new government was. And he started applying himself. He really got into it. He said, get into it, yeah. And he quickly started looking for a position in the new organization, in the new government. He wanted to be a part of the people who change Ethiopia for the better. Now, on the first thing that any government really does once they take power, any new government does once they take power, and they'll teach you in geopolitics, anything you're learning about international whatevers, they will teach you that the first thing a government does when they take power is they eliminate supporters of the old government, and they will eliminate any traces of the old regime, etc. So that it's like, we're here now. Yeah, forget about them. It's me. It's about me now, bitch. So Mr. Kelbessa really made himself an integral part of the mission of the new party, obviously to eradicate any traces of the old regime. And in eradicating that, that means you have to eradicate all the supporters, all the people who were supporting Haile Selassie, because if you leave them, then they could really rise up and come and get you in your beds in the middle of the night, in the middle of the goddamn night. So first, Kelbessa became part of a neighborhood council, which was tasked with overseeing, like, you know, the revolutionary changes in the country, and basically catching the catchers of people who are still in support of Haile Selassie and catching them before they could even manifest anything resembling a revolution against the new government. Under this position, he really proved himself. In fact, he was said to kill so many people that every week he was asking for new ammunitions. He was asking for new guns, new things to be able to kill more people for the regime. And the more and more he did this, obviously, naturally, if you're in line with what the people of the regime are trying to do, naturally they'll just fall in love with you. Yeah, they'll just fall in love with you. They'll give you everything you wanted, anything you want, any of your wildest desires. They can be yours. And this was pretty dangerous because he's getting everything he wants from killing people. And quickly, he realized I actually like this. And he went even more harm. Climbed ranks so fast, like faster than fast, to the point where he was one of the professional torturers and assassins of this new regime. And from moving from professional assassin and torturer of the new regime, Mans moved to the head of the torture department of the new regime. So you know he was offing everybody's brother and sister for the girl named Ratata. He really said everybody must die. Because why? Because I said they should die. So now that he's the head of the torture, he's no longer going into the streets to shoot and kill people. What they would do is him as the head of the torture, people now at the lower levels would gather people and then take them to him. Take them to him so that he can torture them and, you know, get it out of them if they're supporter of the old regime, of which many people were supporters of the old regime. Because it's like, okay, maybe I didn't like Emperor Haile Selassie, bitch, but I'm not gonna like you. I'm not gonna like you. It was said that he abused his power so much that one time he actually ordered the execution of a person because he wanted his Peugeot. Peugeot! This is a Peugeot. Peugeot. This car is what made you kill somebody, not even a Range Rover. You know, if it was a Range Rover, I could have thought about it. Obviously, nobody deserves to die over anything, but a Peugeot. That's the hill you're gonna die on. Anyway, so if you know one thing about people don't like to be carried for idiot. People don't like to be, you know, treated like shit in their own country. Are you stupid? Are you mad? So quickly, the people who actually had supported the new, you know, Derg organization or the new Derg government quickly started turning on them because it became apparent that, wait a second, these guys are no better than Haile Selassie. If anything, at least Haile Selassie know they beat us. Like, Haile Selassie wasn't beating anybody. His own was just the rumors of him, you know, feeding his dog's meat while people were dying. But the new Derg organization had, one, not even addressed the problem of famine, and two, they were torturing people. The fuck? Would you like to be pinched, and a method of torture they truly did enjoy, or according to what, you know, a lot of his victims said, a method of torture he really did enjoy apart from death was he would tie like a pig. He would like a pig that is about to roast, and then he would just lash you, etc. So obviously, people were really getting sick and tired of this shit. It's like, okay, we've given you enough time to come to power. We've given you enough time to change, and you guys are not changing. If anything, you're worse, and you're roasting us like we're pigs. We are not your pigs. Like, go and buy some pigs for the economy. You guys, you are doing nonsense. So quickly, the resistance really started to gain a lot of traction. And when people support resistances, it's very easy for your government to be toppled, because it's the locals that will hide the rebels, that will help them, give them food, etc. So you're looking for rebels in the forests. Meanwhile, rebels are very much so sleeping in somebody's bed, because the people of the nation are helping the rebels. And the more support the rebels got, the worse the Derg organization became to the people, because now they started viewing the people as the enemy, because many of the people were supporting the revolutionaries, or well, the now new rebel militia. So quickly the people and the government are at odds, and the more the people and the government are at odds, the more torture the government is employing in the people, and the more torture the government is employing, the farther away they push the people. So it's really like a snake that's eating itself, and it just keeps on going round and round and round and round. However, for Kelbessa, this is actually nothing but great news. This is great news for him, because for him, this just means that his expertise of torture, I know this man wasn't an expertise at torture. His expertise of torture, I just needed more and more and more and more and more. So he's now waiting to be called on every day. He really has appointments as he's living in the house. God knows where his wife is, because as I'm reading, I was really thinking, where's your wife? Like, where's your wife? How is your wife allowing you to do all this shit? Like, how is your wife allowing you to do all this shit? But every day of his life, he was busy now. And he was really one of the most people in demand in that government. He was getting rewards for his torture, etc. And he was now a very big man, from a sheep farmer's son to a sheep farmer to a family man. And now he's the head of torture. And now he's even more powerful than the main guy himself that's actually in charge of the entire organization. So as the torture is continuing, people are continuing to hate the government, as I said. And quickly, it became apparent to Mr. Kelbessa that, wait a second, this our head of the party, he's not concerned that much. He's really not that concerned about this party the way he should be concerning himself. Because the head of the party, he was busy fucking bitches and sleeping and drinking and wara, instead of being concerned that there's a lot of uprising. So Mr. Kelbessa found himself having to do even double the work of torture. And so much as he liked it, nobody likes to work overtime. I ain't gonna do your job. No. So Kelbessa starts to quickly realize that if the people of the government don't care, these revolutionaries are gonna take over. They're about to take over. And if these revolutionaries take over, what will happen indefinitely is Kelbessa will find himself in a very funny conundrum. Because the people don't even hate the heads of state the way they hate Kelbessa. The people really fucking hated Kelbessa because somebody's tying you like a pig. You're a taxpayer. Somebody they tie you like, say you be pig because he's suspecting you of things you haven't even goddamn done. So the people are really now starting to gain traction, momentum for their revolution. And some places in Ethiopia were actually starting to fall to the revolutionaries. And the government was quickly losing control of Ethiopia. So Kelbessa realizes, okay, I gas go, bro. I gas go. And as things are going bad out there in Ethiopia, within the party, things are going really bad because as Kelbessa is now starting to speak up and telling people, hey yo, we gas get up, we gas wake up. The people in the party now turn against Kelbessa. And Kelbessa, according to what he says, he's imprisoned and now they start to torture him. You see, I told you, my God is good, oh. God know they sleep, oh. God know they sleep, oh, God know they sleep. So they don't catch him. He's now being tortured and he now realizes that, oh my gosh, things are actually not as cute as I thought they were. I thought it would be fun. I thought it would give a little kiki, a little haha for this kind of thing, but no. So as he's being tortured, he manages to finally, speak to the authorities and tell them, hey, look, yeah, all of us, we are friends. All of us, we can eat this bread together. We can get fat together. We can fuck these bitches together. Why are we fighting? And the people in his organization are like, yeah, you make a point. We don't need to fight. Me and all of us, we are friends here. There's no need for us to fight. And he said, yeah. All of them agree, and all of them agree to be friends, and they let Kelbessa go. But as soon as, and when I say as soon, I mean as soon as Kelbessa is let out, he says, absolutely not. And he decides he wants to run away because he's like, if you guys can catch me, your head torturer, and torture the head torturer, what is that? Where is that you guys will not dare to cross? Show me that place you guys will not dare to stamp on. And he decided that he actually has to go because one, his friends in government have turned against him. Two, the people in the country also really hate him more than they hate many people because he was the head torturer. He was doing the most torture. He was acting like a bad bitch, not thinking that his era would ever end. And he really decides that he really is at risk. He's at risk. He needs to go. And Kelbessa decides he's going to try and find himself a way to get into America because, remember, he was supposed to go there as a child. And I guess maybe he chose America because I guess it was his lifelong dream. And he just, I don't know, child. I can't be able to tell you. Even if I wanted, I couldn't tell you why. But he decided America was the best place to go for him. So he manages to organize for himself a study visa, organizes the study visa, and he hops on a plane to America. And he was basically escaping. So he didn't really carry many things. He only managed to carry a few clothes, some travel documents, etc. So he didn't go with his family when he went. And not much was really being heard about his family. But he didn't really leave with his family when he decided to, run away from his wahalas that he himself caused in Ethiopia. So he arrives in New York City on August 3rd, 1987, and he arrived there, like I said, he didn't have much. He only had about $200 on his body for food and transport or anything. But the good thing is he wasn't going to stay in New York. It was just like it was a layover to go to somewhere else. So he arrives in New York and he chills in New York for some time, for like a day or so. When he arrives, he gets his bags, etc. He's cleared at customs and he's allowed to go out of the airport before he has to catch his next flight the next day to go to Atlanta, Georgia. So he decides, it's like he forgot that he's broke. He decides now he wants to go and do sites. I can't with this man. How do you have no money, but you decide you want to be a sightseer? You see how I tell you guys to respect yourselves? You see why I tell you guys to respect your finances? I tell you every time, every day, respect your finances. You guys don't like to listen to me. So Mr. Kelbessa now sees, he's in America. He's there for the first time. He's gonna have a good old time. He decides he wants to go become a tourist, and he goes and gets a cab. And those yellow cabs in New York City, they're not playing with your wallet. If you can't afford it, don't do it. Don't do it. He looks around New York and then he also rents a very cheap motel because he didn't really have much money. But by the next day when he was supposed to board his next flight, he didn't have any money whatsoever on his body. At that point, he was broke. And I think it's because he actually forgot how money works. When you're in government, you get a lot of things given to you, cars, what, and he had all this power. So I'm sure like him only having $200 to him, he didn't realize how truly broke he was until he went to spend that money. And the people were looking at him like, so what do you want us to do for you with $200? Anyway, he gets back to the airport, and when he arrives in Atlanta, Georgia, he's actually picked up by his friend Ayaleo, and him and Ayaleo had been friends for a long time, according to what Kelbessa said. And so he 100% trusted Ayaleo with not only his identity, but clearly his life, because now he needs Ayaleo basically for survival, because he's not the big shot in government he was anymore. So Ayaleo takes him in, takes him home, feeds him, gives him clothes, gives him everything that he would possibly need to be able to, survive and, do better and be a black king. However, Mr. Kelbessa obviously found this hard. It was a very difficult adjustment because even as he's going to Ayaleo's home, it's not as big as he's used to. Furthermore, he now realizes very quickly that he has to get a job because he ain't got no money. The regime used to really provide for him, but now he really ain't got no money. So he really got to get a job. And he could only get very low ranking jobs because he was trying to keep a very low, undercover, under the profile, under the wabas, under the woyes kind of, jobs. He didn't really want to alert, the good people of America that he's there. He first worked in retail. He worked at a night shift. He worked a night shift at a grocery store. However, with time, he did manage to land himself a job as a bellhop. And that's why we're here today. Because it's at this job that things started really not making... The sense was not sense in the juice, not the juice again. At this bellhop job, Mr. Kelbessa was actually introduced to a lot of Ethiopians because a lot of Ethiopians actually worked at the restaurant. So he was really interacting with a lot of Ethiopians, etc. And this kind of made him really nervous because, like I said, he was a very famous man back home in Ethiopia and he didn't really want to be, courted like a rat on the highway. So he would try his best to keep keep to himself. He was invited at a point to join a Bible study group with the rest of the people, but he decided not to do it after some time because he could tell people could recognize him. So he stopped going after some time. And after this, he really didn't really talk to anybody at his bellhop job. However, he did still say hi, how are you, how you been, etc. You know, the normal kind of co-worker talk. And it's through this co-worker talk that his worst nightmares would now be realized. Now, one afternoon, Mr. Kelbessa was actually on an elevator, and a co-worker of his was running to try and catch the elevator. He holds the elevator for this lady, and it was actually a woman. She was an Ethiopian woman, and he says hi to her as she boards the elevator. He's like, hi, how are you? And the lady she talks to him, but she was giving very off vibes, and he just thought, oh well, you know, some people are odd like that, and that's just her. Kind of shrugged it off. He was like, you know what, people are weird, fuck it, whatever, it doesn't matter. But little did he know that his weird encounter wasn't weird because this lady was just one weird freaky old Ethiopian woman like that, but it was really the beginning of the end for Mr. Kelbessa. Now, this lady's name is, I'm gonna read it because I don't know how to say it, Ejegayo, but people call her Edge because a lot of people find it very difficult to pronounce. I'm gonna read it because I don't know how to say it. Ejegayo, but people call her Edge because a lot of people find it very difficult to pronounce, and I don't want to come and butcher somebody's name on here, so I'm just gonna say Edge because even her, when she was talking to police, she said people can call her Edge. So according to Miss Edge, when she got into the elevator, she saw this man. It took some time for her to click and to really gauge who the fuck this man was. Like, as soon as she clicked who this man was, she started getting like a whole trance of everything that happened back home and why she actually had to leave Ethiopia. She tells us that one evening, a group of men came and approached her, and they approached her and told her get in the car, of which she had no objection to. She was like, okay, because this kind of thing used to happen in Ethiopia a lot. So she gets into the car with no objection. She said, fine. They get to where they're going to, and when they get there, these people tell her to strip down naked, and they tie both her hands and her feet, and they bind them, and they put her up, like I said, like a pig. And Mr. Kelbessa is now called into the room, and he now starts to ask her questions after questions after questions. Are you a supporter of the other regime? Do you support the revolutionaries, etc.? And this lady would actually go on to say that when she saw this man, she couldn't believe it was Mr. Kelbessa because he was the baddest bitch back home. So how the fuck was the baddest bitch back home here working as a bellhop in the same hotel as her? Like, impossible. She now goes on to tell us that the way she actually confirmed it was him, because he had changed over the years, and obviously there was also the disbelief that she was in, was when he opened his mouth, because she then now remembered as he opened his mouth when she was tied up like a pig to be asking her questions. And she said that she just continued to relive the thing inside her head, and this is what she said. After Mr. Kelbessa started interrogating her and she wouldn't snitch herself, he spent 2 days torturing her, doing God knows what to this poor woman. So after she finally now decides, you know, she's not gonna partake, Mr. Kelbessa says, fine, you don't want to say, I'll send you to even a bigger, badder wolf than I. So she's taken to a jail cell where she stays there for 10 months, and she's there with 30 other women. And she says that one of the women who was there was actually the daughter of the former Supreme Justice, and she said how that lady really told her that Mr. Kelbessa is not to be fucked with. Like, you, whatever he wants you to do, just do it, don't fuck around. And she took the advice of the lady, and within some time, obviously 10 months, she was released and she was allowed to go. And after that, she found a way to sneak out. She found a band of Somali people smuggling people out of Ethiopia, and she was smuggled out of Ethiopia, and she never really thought of the day again until now. Now, back to the current. She's now realized who this man is, and she really sits with it for a few months, because obviously, in so much as, yeah, I know who you are, I know what you've done, the person is also very much so still a victim. You're also still very much thinking that this person is supreme. She says she battled with it for a long time, thinking if she says it, what can even happen to him? We're in another country, who will believe me? Basically what a lot of victims feel. And she decided, you know what, I'm not going to let it be. And she started talking to some people, and some people started saying, oh my gosh, yeah, I recognize him. And a lot of people started recognizing this man from back home. And this was really starting to be a problem for Mr. Kelbessa, because Mr. Kelbessa now got news that this lady was asking a lot of questions about him. And by this time, he can't really do anything because he's not in his country. Now, this lady decided she was going to take Mr. Kelbessa to court for the crimes against humanity that he carried out back home in Ethiopia. And she finds a lawyer. She successfully finds a lawyer who can take this case on for her. She gets other witnesses, two other women that also were tortured by Kelbessa. And they managed to, form a kind of union, a kind of sisterhood, a kind of, togetherness to be able to catch Mr. Kelbessa like a rat on the highway. Now, Kelbessa was actually jailed for 15 months, but after the women testified in the case and everything was done, he was released. But it's what he really did say during the jail time that was mad. That's where the story of him actually being the tortured in Ethiopia came out. He said that he wasn't actually the person who was the torturer. He said that he was also tortured, and that if they decided to take him back to Ethiopia so he can answer for his crimes, because by this time back home in Ethiopia, the resistance had won and everything was looking great for the resistance, and they were looking very heavily for the war criminals that had oppressed the Ethiopian people during that time. And Kelbessa was on the top of their list. So Kelbessa now is literally begging the American state for his protection. He's saying that, look, I can't go back there. If I go back there, they'll catch me. Please don't allow me to go back there, etc., etc., etc. And for some reason, the Americans didn't deport this man, because I'll never understand why they never deported him, but they didn't deport him. And he stayed on American soil. The case ended, and these women got restitution. Nothing really ever happened to Kelbessa. However, he did continue to have some legal issues. He tried to appeal the case, and he would continue the next 15 years of his life trying to appeal this case. And it's the appeal of this case that really led to his downfall in the bitter end. Now, after this case, as I said, Kelbessa continued to try to appeal this case, but he still continued to live his life. He got another wife who was 15 years younger than him, and he also had a son by that woman, but his son died because he was born with a vitamin deficiency sickness or illness. I'm not sure what it was. However, he did get a very healthy baby girl, and I don't know if this is what made the government come back for him and say no, 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 but the government came back for him. And they really started pursuing him, because by this time, a woman in America was really looking to get a bill passed to say that if you committed crimes in another country and the country is looking for you, they can deport you back to that country. And so Kelbessa now decides, you know what? Because this bill, if it's passed, I'm finished and I'm done for, and I'll be taken to Ethiopia to face the wrath of God. I'm gonna get citizenship. So he gets citizenship, and he's safe from whether or not the bill passes. He's safe from everything that happens. He's good to go. He lives in America for some time. He buys a house. However, it's not easy to live life with the government on your ass. Like always, the government is already on our asses. So imagine if the government was always on your particular ass. Like they give everybody else a rest except you. So Kelbessa just decided, you know what, maybe if I try to, show them that I'm gonna cooperate with them, maybe if I try to show them that I'm a good person, they'll allow me to live out my days in, peace and amazing solitude. But he forgot that this was the American government, and that's not just how American governments do things. So Mr. Kelbessa decides that, you know what, I've gotten my my citizenship. However, what I'm gonna do to show that I'm a good person, to show these American people that I'm a good person and I'm not scared of deportation because I didn't do anything wrong, he decided to give up his citizenship. However, this was a very stupid mistake on his part, because the citizenship was actually the only thing that was holding him from being deported back to Ethiopia. The bill that was wanting to be passed had already been passed, and the lady that was trying to pass the bill was on Mr. Kelbessa's nyash, for lack of better words. She was really trying to catch him. She was like, I'm gonna get you. And the second he gave up his citizenship, she got him. She got him good. Mr. Kelbessa was arrested almost immediately after he gave up his citizenship, and he was kept in a holding cell as they decided whether or not they're going to deport him back to Ethiopia. By this time, the people in Ethiopia were really you know how like they want to throw somebody to the dogs? They were going to throw him to the dog. They were so tired of him hiding out in America that they had in fact already held a trial before he arrived. They held a trial for him in absentia. Holding a trial for somebody in absentia is when you hold a trial for somebody that's not even there. That's how much they wanted to bring his ass to justice. So they held a trial for him in absentia. They found him guilty, of course. 100 witnesses came out to the trial to testify against Kelbessa and all the shit that he had done to the people of Ethiopia and every bad thing he had done to the people. And 100 people came out and confirmed that yes, that is Kelbessa, and yes, he did do this and this and that to me. That's how even the story of the Peugeot came out. Like, he was in deep soup. And back home in America, he's really sad. He's really begging these people. He's like, please don't ship me back. Those people they're basically gonna kill me. However, the people in America did not care because they're not his daddies. And immediately that the court said, send his ass back, they were very, very fast to send his ass back. They sent him back to Ethiopia, and since then, I dare say, nothing has really been heard about Mr. Kelbessa. So it's not really clear if Kelbessa is dead, if Kelbessa is alive. And yeah, guys, that is the story of the Kelbessa interrogation or investigation. It's a story of really a bad guy who thought he could really just reinvent himself. This is how I feel, and I know this is gonna sound very bad, but this is how I feel about bullies, because bullies will bully you your entire life and then move to one different country like that and think, oh wow, I can just reinvent myself, and like nobody will ever know I was this terrible person who basically almost led somebody to suicide, who just made people's lives very difficult every single day of their lives. Yeah, that's literally what bullies do. And I'm glad that these women didn't allow this specific bully to just go untamed and untouched. And this is really a message to all the bullies in the world. Like, you guys think that you guys can just move on from everything you did, but the thing is, you always meet one person who you wronged. Like, you always meet one person who you've wronged. And I just hope that you're ready and you're grown and you're adult enough to be able to be like, hey, you know what? I'm really sorry for what I did. Because all it takes is I'm sorry. And that's the one thing Mr. Kelbessa didn't do. He never apologized to these women. He never even apologized to the people of Ethiopia. In fact, when they wanted to take him back, he was busy crying, saying that they can't take him back because he's too old to be tortured. But him, when he was torturing people, when he was doing bad things to people, he didn't consider anybody's age. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really enjoyed chilling with you. This is the finished look. I know it doesn't look so cute, but I decided not to elongate usually my cutter is just it's cutty. It's just what, but I decided to make them short and cute. I look so period. But I will see you guys in the next one when I finish doing my entire face, and that way maybe I won't look so crazy. And I will see you guys next week in my next one when I finish this next face. Bye.